there was a report that he's been like he stopped partying now. Like
Really?
there's a report.
No
I
more
think he told
parties in LA?
ESPN. He told ESPN that he finally realized the value of sleep. So he's been like going to sleep early, and like
Why
not
would
going
you
out
say that?
and partying. All I'm saying is, yo, Kawhi might be a couple weeks away. Like, I think I'm
Clips?
about to make my annual pitch for the Clippers to win it all again.
Oh my god, bro! If you fall for the January Clippers once again, man,
I
which
really
you
do fall
every
for the
year.
Clippers every year, man.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lu. I'm joined by co-host Alex Wong. You're listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. Make sure you find Hello and Welcome wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe. Please rate and review the show. It is Christmas coming up. Best way to treat your favorite podcasters is just to literally leave a review in the iTunes chart so we can keep bragging to our parents that we're the number one basketball podcast in Canada and face less shame about being podcasters in Canada. Alex Wong, what's going on with you, buddy?
Yeah, what's up, man? Actually, only my dad is here in Toronto during the holidays. As I've told you, my mom is taking the Southwest Division Tim McMahon trip. She's currently in Dallas, traveling to San Antonio, I believe Houston, potentially Memphis as well.
I've never known anybody to vacation to San Antonio and then Dallas. With all due respect to those cities and wherever else you said, Houston, I guess.
Yeah,
but
so
Texas two-step,
wishing
moving
my
like Tim McMahon.
Wishing my mom a happy holidays from afar.
She's gonna FaceTime you from the Riverwalk
oh no
on Christmas.
Hey man, did you watch the NBA Cup semifinals this weekend or what?
I'm not gonna lie to you, we had a Friendsgiving situation, kind of back to back on Friday and then also on Saturday. So I was in Hamilton seeing a bunch of friends. This morning I did wake up and watch the 10-minute condensed videos. It did look pretty good, both contests. So I probably will go back and at least rewatch the fourth quarters. But at least I'm relatively familiar, and I've also seen the Fred VanVleet memes. So, but I mean, I know they weren't like marquee matchups in the sense that like it wasn't the Lakers or Golden State or the Knicks or whatever, but like those are really good games. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see who wins between OKC and Milwaukee.
Yeah, I saw a lot of complaints, I guess, because like the ticket prices for the games in Vegas were like you could get in the door, I think, for like $20 for some of these games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right.
and it's like even you mentioned like, oh, it's not marquee teams like the Lakers with LeBron having gone missing for 8 days now.
Yeah, what's going on with LeBron?
I think he's just I don't know.
Just
He's
chilling?
turning 40 and going through it like all of us. Yeah.
Oh,
so
word.
that might be
Someone planning LeBron's surprise party?
No, but I thought these four teams getting there to Vegas was pretty exciting for the league to like spotlight some of these teams. Like Milwaukee obviously got the big stars. I think Atlanta is a very exciting team. Houston as well, and of course OKC. So I thought this was a good draw for the NBA, man. But I do feel like the conversation this year is just surrounding like why the product is bad. I know we've talked about it too. And the rating stuff came out this week too. I think the ratings are down 28% at ESPN year to year. And it's like down 48% over the last 10 years. I love how they're stretching the sample size to punish Adam Silver.
Yo, 10 years? What was happening 10 years ago? The Heatles? I mean, that's tough, man. How are you going to compete with the Heatles era? I mean, I think, we've talked about this subject a few times on the show now too. But one of the other things too is just like, I feel like as a consumer of the NBA, if you're a casual consumer, because again, like the diehards like us, we're going to watch regardless. Although I did go to a Friendsgiving, but I didn't watch. But it's not my fault. Like we're literally recording Sunday morning. I'm going to go watch the games. But for the casuals, it's like, you've already talked about LeBron. You've had every possible conversation about LeBron. You've had every possible conversation about KD and Steph. And, some of the young guys coming up, they are exciting, but they're just not on that scale. You know what I mean? And I feel like, the league's kind of like begging out for like their version of a Caitlin Clark, their version of like this like really transformationally important player, somebody you can have a conversation about all the time. Like Caitlin obviously was named Times Athlete of the Year and gave a, pretty insightful interview. And people just want to talk about Caitlin no matter what. Like it's the dead of the WNBA offseason right now. And, they still want to debate about her. You know what I mean? And that's sort of like the cultural relevance you need to have to sort of bring people to your league. And the NBA just doesn't necessarily have that right now, even though the quality of basketball, like I thought the tournament, all the tournament games have been really good. And the two finals yesterday, semifinals yesterday, were all really, really competitive, and they showcased, 1 and 2 in the West. And honestly, Houston, despite obviously like they're nowhere near OKC's level, but the fact that they even made it tough on OKC was pretty impressive. Their defense is legit. Obviously, they just really don't have much offense. And then in the other side, like I actually kind of like Milwaukee turning it around. Like even Chris Middleton, I don't know, I've slandered Chris, it's mostly just because like I felt like he was overrated in many ways, but when he comes back to the roster, it's like, oh yeah, it's like a guy who's driving an old car of his. Like he just knows exactly where everything is, sort of how hard to push the pedal, and he just makes so many connective plays that like all of a sudden it's not just Dame over here, Giannis over here. Like you also have this connective piece. So there's a lot of good storylines, and Atlanta's really young and upcoming, and like they're playing really good basketball, and they're really fun to watch too. So yeah, I mean, I think the basketball itself is good. Like the players are doing what they need to, but I think it's just like a marketing issue with the league.
Yeah, it is a marketing issue when the biggest thing I feel like that came out of yesterday was like Stephen A. Smith getting into shooting contests with the Inside the NBA crew.
Right.
Like, I feel like we got to chill with that stuff. Like, at what point did Stephen A. become like the 6th most popular person in like the NBA universe?
Well, that's actually a really good point, right? Because like, obviously Stephen A. has been around for a long time. He's been at the top of his craft for a long time, but this is kind of how the internet migrated, right? Like, it's now moved to the point where the NBA is not just competing with like other sports for eyeballs. They're competing with everything. They're competing with Instagram, and they're showing you like random reels of your friends, like, doing stuff. And, Alex buying a scarf at Patois this week, you know what I mean? And, it's you're competing with like random TikTok. You're competing with like all sorts of like media that you're like inundated and flooded by. Like even when you're watching NBA right now, like let's say you're sitting down and watching a Raptor game, like your phone's on and you're on social and you're on, like, you're probably watching something else on your phone. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're just competing with so many other things. And so I feel like what's risen to the top is like, are people who are really able to grab attention and really able to sort of just like, not prod you all the time, but just like always give you something, you know what I mean? And I feel like Stephen A. in this instance was just giving you something, and I guess he's like the oldest streamer basically.
No,
you know what I mean? Like
you have a really good point about that, because like I feel like the most exciting basketball I've seen this year is the videos of lethal shooters trying to shoot like a gummy bear into a water bottle.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just pure bullshit, which is the most of the internet anyway.
Like, is that like, our problem? I guess like this is just the stuff we want to consume now.
This is just a consumer problem. I mean, like I even find myself like, I was always so big on listening to basketball podcasts, like always so big on listening to basketball podcasts. That was like my like habit for basically the last 10 years. But I find myself like gravitating more towards YouTube and like looking at like even like watching random shorts, and they're like, it's just whatever the algorithm pushes me. It's like a guy in the forest is like cooking a salmon with like nothing but like, I don't know, wood and like a piece of stone, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then they'll push like a Lord of the Rings video to me. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm just like, wait, what am I doing? Like, I don't feel like I'm focused with the game plan with intention. Like, I feel like most times people log on to consume content and it lacks, I guess, intention. They just kind of were like, all right, just like occupy my brain for the next like 5 minutes before I got to go to my next Zoom meeting or something. So,
yeah, well, yeah, I'd be interested to hear like people listening too if your basketball like viewing habits have changed. So feel free to email me info@StephenLeBron.com. Yeah, Raptors though, brother.
What's going on with the Raps, man? It's been a quiet week.
4 in a row, lost 4 in a row, 7-19.
Okay. Who's counting?
Back to being a second worst team here in the East.
Let's look at Tankathon, man.
Scotty is out as well. It's interesting because I was watching the NBA Cup like we talked about, and you talked about like the 2 top teams in the West right now, like OKC and Houston, and like OKC especially because I think right now they are one of the favorites to just win it all. Forget about the NBA Cup. And just the way that they play defense. I know that you talked about that earlier this week too with like Cash and Wolfon, just kind of tenaciousness, the way that they've built their team. And Ime Udoka, your most problematic head coach in the league, recently said in an interview, said that, a top 5 defense is, quote, a non-negotiable for winning an NBA title. And it did make me think, just like in general, like, I know that like, having a top 10 defense, like having a championship defense has always been just like a staple, like across the decades. But like as the playing style has changed in the NBA, like how have like the team profiles look like of like teams recently who have
Okay.
won like championships and like won the finals, and like I was looking at the last 3 finals, like the Celtics last year I think was just a two-way monster, right? Like they
Mhm.
were first on offense, second on defense. But then on the other side, you had a team like the Mavs who was like 8th on offense and 18th on defense. Even
They
though
got a
they
lot
did,
better post trade
yeah,
deadline.
so
Yeah.
post All-Star they were 13th. So it wasn't like they
Wow.
were like a crazy elite defense, right? Like I know people made a big deal
Fair enough.
about the
Their
team
defense was really
changing.
good in the run to the finals, though.
Yeah. And then it's like I look at the Nuggets too. Like the Nuggets had the 5th best offense, but the 15th best defense.
Hmm.
Like during the regular season, during that run. And it just made me think like I know the Raptors are super far away right now,
Hmm.
but it's like, oh, I feel like lately some of the conversation has shifted towards like, hey, listen, like RJ's gotten off to a great start on offense, but you know, he's lacking as a defensive player. Grady as well, I think, isn't like an above average defender right now. And the Raptors are 22nd on defense right now. They were 26th last season. I guess
Hmm.
last season doesn't even count because they were just shuffling rosters.
Well, I
By
would
the
argue
end of
last
the year.
season counts because, like, when they started the season, they still had good defenders. You know what I mean? Like, Dennis Schroeder is a guy who pressures the ball a lot. And Jakob Poeltl obviously is, like, a good defensive anchor for, most teams. Like, OG's phenomenal defensively. Pascal, like, that's 4 of your starting 5. And obviously, we had, is that this whole starting 5 last year? Yeah, and that might have been the whole starting 5 last year. So it's like all 5 guys were pretty strong defensively. Coming into the year, we're like, well, they still should have strong defense. And then outside of like the first 2 weeks of the season when they were good, that team was not good on defense. And that's part of why that team got broken up. Not only because like they were pretty much already going to pivot towards a rebuild, but even the last gasp look at the team, before they obviously made the first trade with OG and then the second one with Pascal. Like that team, by the time the OG trade was made, was already like bottom 10 defensively in the league, even though they had really good defensive personnel, at least on paper.
Yeah, I think that's the question for me to you is like, as we're thinking about this team and as it's moving forward with like rebuilding, like
Mhm.
how many plus defenders do they even have like on their roster, especially in the starting lineup right now when you're thinking about them fully healthy?
Not that many.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Jakob has been better defensively in the past in terms of the impact metrics have been better for him. This year he's closer to neutral or like slightly positive. But obviously I think Jakob is a pretty responsible defender. Davion obviously is a great defender. I mean, he called himself the best defender in the NBA. I even like the attitude and the approach, and even something where
I watch Kawhi in a Raptors uniform. So.
yeah,
Come on, guys.
I've seen OG
What are
in a
we
uniform
doing?
too. I know, but it's fine. Davion's curating
I like
his
the
own
confidence.
buzz.
I like the
I
confidence.
like the confidence too, and I think beyond the confidence, I was at the press conference when Davion sort of explained that, and I kind of asked him about his defensive process. I asked him, like, for example, they had just played the Knicks before he was given that sort of declaration of the being the best defender. And I asked him, like, so what's your process when you have a guy like Jalen Brunson coming in? And he was like, okay, so for the top guards like that, like he mentioned, Shea, for example, similar to, they had put him the previous week. He's like, I'm going to get all their isolation possessions. And he gets like a 20-minute video from the coaching staff, the video staff. And then he said on the day of, he watched it 5 times, right? So that's like, that type of like dedication and process and rewinding and studying moves, like that's 2 hours out of your day on game day, which I know that's like, okay, these guys are multimillionaires. That's what they should be doing. I guarantee you 95% of the NBA players are not doing that. You know what I mean? And that dedication, that process, and that want to from Davion is something that's really admirable. And I hope that, like, he was even saying he was like watching it and then relaying some of those tips to Ochai, who had the assignment to guard Shea with their starting lineup. Obviously, Davion's coming off the bench. So it's like he's even trying to pass it on to teammates. And I think more than anything else, like you hear all these guys talk about it, like defense is half at least just like how much do you want it, right? Of course, like you can want it as much as you want if you're like, even Davion's size. Obviously, you still can't contest Shea when he's pulling up over the top of you. You can't contest the center when they're sort of going through you. But like, I think the Raptors in the last recent run here have not really made an effort to acquire strong defenders. And even though coming into the season, their stated goal was we really want to lock in defensively, and you saw like a very, very dedicated push to force more turnovers and apply more ball pressure, that has not translated over to the season. Now, of course, you can always blame injuries. You can always blame the team being young. You can always say that this season doesn't matter because they're tanking. But when is it going to start mattering that this team needs to be good on defense? You know, and even long term, fine, you might have there's the want-to portion, but the talent defensively, it's like RJ's not a strong defender. Grady's not a strong defender. Jacoby, actually kind of like his two-way potential, but it's a little too young to say anything definitive just yet. So, yeah, I mean, IQ, for example, not a strong defender. So basically, yeah, like obviously Scotty's a phenomenal defender. That's kind of a given, and that's why he's like clear-cut the best player on the team is his two-way ability, and Jakob's solid, but beyond that, I mean, yeah, I totally see it. You know what I mean? And I think Houston is very interesting because no one, like Houston before Ime got there was a joke. I still have Rocket fans like quote retweeting my old video. I put out a video after the Raptors beat them one year, and my video was the title was just Rocket fans should demand a refund. And the video was just the Raptors applying full court pressure. And
yeah, they couldn't break the press.
Bro, they had like 13 turnovers on just full court possession, like pressure. It was crazy. They couldn't even bring the ball past half. Not even talking about like getting into any sort of offense. And the Rockets fans still quote retweet that to this day in thanking Ime because he's turned a young team into a great defensive team that he could even pressure OKC until obviously OKC breaks through. But it's like that part that's a coach like really, really being hard on the team and really, really like implementing that. And then also it's like, okay, fine, you guys don't want to play defense? I'll bench Alperen Sengun if you don't play defense. I'll bench Jalen Green if he doesn't play defense. Those are like top players for them, you know? So yeah, it's a multiplying effect, I think, in general. But yeah, I mean, again, like I know this season is not about that. This season is just about let's bury our heads in the sand, look at hope, and you know, everything like that. But I think eventually defense has to matter, man. Like, again, we're watching 2019 playoffs, man. Like, bro, the defense on that level, like it's like two different sports.
Yeah, it's like even just looking at the top teams right now, like Cleveland's a great defensive team.
Yeah.
We've also mentioned like OKC, Houston, like Boston as well. I think it's just a bigger picture question for me is like what kind of team do Masai and Bobby want to build out? You know what I mean? Like I think it's fine now, like it's early, like it's rebuilding, like you mentioned. People are just checking tankathon and stuff, but like ultimately, like what do they want to be? Like because like they're either gonna have to improve their defense, or like you can hope that you can build out like say like a top 5 offense, with the roster, which I don't know presently as the way it's constructed if it can get there.
Well, I think this team definitely has a way higher offensive ceiling than they have a defensive ceiling, even though they don't necessarily have like a true number one type scorer either.
Yeah, so that's like the big question for me, man. Just like starting to look at it, and I'm with you, man. It's like there was so much talk about just being better on defense and like having that accountability. And it's like I do want to just start seeing that. Like even if guys, it's like especially if guys are injured and on the starting lineup, you should be out there competing. And part of the defensive philosophy should just be the effort. So that is something that I do want to see this season.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of want to bring this up.
I do like for the rookie crop this year. Like I like that Mobo gets after defensively. Like the one-on-one defense that he played against Jimmy in that possession, or even the Luka possessions. Like it shows me that he has the mind to play defense and also sort of like the size and the ability to impact defensively. Jamal Shed hasn't played that much, especially now that the season's gotten going or whatever. But like, and guys are getting healthier. But you know, he's a guy who obviously has a real defensive like mindset. And Jacoby's, now that we're seeing him play more and more, like I'm actually really excited to watch more of him defensively because I feel like he has a higher two-way impact than Grady, for example. You know what I mean? Like, of course, Grady's much better offensively right now, but in terms of as a two-way player, it'd be kind of interesting. And, so maybe obviously it'll take time. It's a process. We're not demanding like great defense right away. I mean, Darko's not a miracle worker, but even like Ime is a good, prescriptive like example of this because last year the Rockets were like top 5 defensively until they got all banged up and they finished top 10. Right now they're second in league in defense. It's like, I mean, yeah, they drafted 4. Like Amin Thompson is certainly a really good, like incredible athlete, like literally top 10 athlete in the NBA. And Tari Eason is a dog, but like, like bro, it's Sengun, it's Fred, like Dylan Brooks, like a lot of these guys have like they've specifically added these vets who really play defense, and then like they've had a coach that like just demands it out of that group. Like they took Reed Shepherd number 3 overall. We were all excited after watching Summer League. Reed doesn't even play this year because he doesn't play defense good enough for him, and that's the standard you got to set.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Yeah, that's all I got for the Raptors for you this week, my brother.
Okay, what about former Raptor show correspondent Dennis Schroeder getting traded?
Oh yeah, big trade. Didn't know it was possible for a trade to take place in this second apron world, but I believe the minute that Dennis Schroeder became trade eligible, the Brooklyn Nets sent him to Golden State in exchange for DeAnthony Melton, who is out with a torn ACL right now.
Right.
And 3 second-round picks, which I have seen online people refer to as 3 Bronnies.
You know what? I do like second-round picks referred to as Bronnies.
Yeah, so DeAnthony Melton and 3 Bronnies. So it was reported, too, that the Warriors were trying to get a bigger deal done to potentially acquire Cam Johnson as well. But that would have required them to include Jonathan Kuminga, which I guess they continue to refuse to, or maybe they're waiting for a bigger deal. But
by the way, Kuminga reminds me of like, you know, when you're in a poker hand and like you get dealt like suited connectors, you know, and you're like, all right, I got 9-10 suited, you know, I'm gonna limp in, you know, like maybe it's they only like raise the blind once, you know.
Yo,
like,
don't get me jonesing with these hypotheticals,
right? And then the flop comes and you're like, whoa, there's a jack on the board. And there's a king. All I need is a queen now to hit that straight.
You're gonna hang tight. You're gonna
hang tight, and you're like, someone raises. You're like, I don't necessarily want to chase this, but again,
I'm
like
jonesing right now. Chill,
I'll probably
bro.
match this just to see the turn.
How much you think that raise from Ennis is? You think like $20 into a $50 pot?
The thing is, we're on that first off, Ennis is in the madness. All right, so I think
check out the madness on Netflix. Check out Children Ruin Everything.
Yeah, I think a 2-time Canadian Screen Award winner can raise 20 on a gut shot. But you're like, all right, you know what? Fine, I want to chase it, and then you get to the turn. This is the turn in Kuminga's career right now, where it's like the turn came up and it's like a 4 of diamonds. You're like, this doesn't help me at all, and someone's probably got me beat right now with top pair or 2 pair, and they're still going to hold to the river because again they're pretty committed at this point. They put in several chips, but it's like they haven't wanted to give up Kuminga for anything, right? Like they've had off ramps. Like I think if Kuminga was put on the table, for example, in the Pascal discussions, that could have made it a lot more interesting, right? Ultimately, it didn't seem like Golden State was anywhere close to acquiring a guy like Pascal. But like, yeah, I mean, Lauri, was he on the table for Lauri Markkanen? I guess Cam Johnson right now is like, it's kind of like a cash out, even though Cam Johnson's pretty solid, but he's like 28 or 29 at this point. So I don't know, man. I don't know. What is Golden State supposed to do with another small guard, by the way? Like, the whole team is just small, short guards.
Well, I think the big problem for them was, like, they lost Melton after getting off to a really quick start. And I guess they just kind of needed to add another piece just for depth. And I think they're going to start Schroeder next to Curry.
Oh, you got to start Dennis. You got to be pretty clear whether you're going to start Dennis for the long term or not.
I do appreciate the Warriors. Like, I think they realize that they need to make a couple moves to actually get into the conversation, and they're not trying to waste like the last few years of Steph because like Steph is still playing well, but I mean they've fallen off a little bit since that early start. They've been blowing a lot of leads too, man.
Well, late game offense is just like a real struggle for them. Obviously, teams really key in on Steph. Steph can obviously still do it, for the most part, but like. A lot of games come down close, and then that secondary score, the lack of it, just kind of like nobody's there to take the pressure off Steph. Like Kuminga, he's like a guy who can give you 31 game and then 7 the next. You know what I mean? It's like a little frustrating to rely on that as a secondary option. And then Buddy Hield is like infamously like hot and cold. You see the Buddy Hield cycle?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so.
Well, you know what all they need to do late game is just make sure they give the ball to Draymond top of the key and have him visualize that his opposing player is Rudy Gobert. Because I don't know if you saw last week, he sized up Gobert and drove to the basket. It was like LeBron in his prime dunking on KG and Pierce. Like, where did that come from Draymond? This is further proof and reinforces for me that having hatred in your heart is a good thing.
But you know what? This is the thing. When we're talking about like what used to bring a lot of people to watch basketball was in the 90s, for example, when basketball was kind of at its peak, NBA basketball. Like there's so many rivalries, man. Like all these plays, obviously I wasn't around to watch them in the moment, but when I watch them back, I'm like, that's fueled by hate. Like, you know what I mean? Scottie Pippen dunking all over Patrick Ewing and then throwing him over. He's like, that's fueled by hate. Like, I need more hatred in the NBA now.
Yeah, our like third biggest rivalry in the league right now is legit like Stephen A versus Kenny Smith. Like that needs to be fixed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna sell anything, like the WWE is like the classic example of this, right? Because obviously it's not like they're not really like wrestling each other. It's all about selling a storyline, and they do a great job of it. Sometimes they go overboard. Actually, I've seen the old Vince McMahon clips, but.
Speaking of problematic,
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, they need to somehow introduce more hate, something, man, like, because more rivalries, you know what I mean? Something's like, give it a little more stakes, you know, like the games that I like watching now are like Milwaukee versus Boston, because there's stakes. They've played each other many times. I used to love watching Miami versus Boston. Now Miami's kind of nowhere near Boston, so it's not competitive, but still, like, when they do get in a competitive game, there's stakes, you know, like Orlando versus Milwaukee. I feel like there's stakes there. Last year, Indiana and Milwaukee had beef. That was cool. Maybe we just need more Milwaukee, actually, because it seems like they beef with everybody. But yeah, you know, just more rivalries, man. Also, I would love for Raptors to get back into a rivalry. I miss, you know, being able to banter with Sixer fans or Bucks fans,
the Raptors
Celtics
segment
fans.
is over, my brother.
Yeah, we're done.
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man, mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork, it can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen, that's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side. Speaking of Miami, too, Shams Charania reported earlier this week that Jimmy Butler would prefer to be traded if he was traded to Phoenix, Dallas, Golden State, or Houston. You know, Jimmy and the Heat have had, like, I think a year and a half to, like, reach an extension, which they haven't yet. He's 35 and is expected to opt out of his $52.4 million player option this summer. Now, all this reporting was refuted by Jimmy's agent, Bernie Lee, who went on Twitter and pushed back against Shams. Shams, stood his ground as an NBA insider. So I wanted to ask you too, because like if you look at some of these teams, I mean, let's go through these teams. So Phoenix, they're above the second apron, so they can't take
What's
back.
What's the trade, man? Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler? That's not good.
The only trade that can happen is Bradley Beal. I mean, this is assuming, of course, you don't include KD and Devin Booker, which they wouldn't. The only other asset they have to offer outside of Bradley Beal is a 2031 first rounder.
Oh, word?
So that looks like a no.
Yeah. A kindergartner?
Yeah, that looks like a no. The Nets, because Brian Lewis of the New York Post did report this week that Brooklyn remains Jimmy Butler's top choice, which we've heard this before too.
My theory is because Brooklyn gets linked to every single potential trade or free agent out there
as leverage.
Brooklyn just has like a very talkative front office.
Okay.
I feel like they're feeding all the reporters.
Right.
Someone in Brooklyn.
So they're getting into every conversation.
That's what I'm saying. Brooklyn always gets brought up, man. Always.
Yeah. So the Nets actually have the cap room to just sign Jimmy this summer.
Okay.
So if Jimmy really wanted to go there, I guess they could make that happen.
But what does Brooklyn even look like? Like it's Jimmy
I guess because they are stripping some parts right now, right? You assume
clearly,
Cam Johnson
they're
will
clearly
be gone.
tanking. Yeah.
Yeah. So and yeah, that one still doesn't make sense to me because like Jimmy, like you're gonna be 36 next season.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
unless you have another starter like come join you.
Yeah.
Even then, I don't know.
This guy's like, oh, damn, that Brooklyn Nets Joe Johnson era. I want to be that. Like,
the Dallas Mavericks. They could trade this poo-poo platter. Well, it's not a poo-poo platter, but it's PJ Washington,
all right,
Daniel Gafford,
not the
Maxi Kleber,
no.
Quentin Grimes, and Dwight Powell. Their salaries would match Jimmy Butler. What are the Miami Heat supposed to do with those five? Like, what kind of trade would that be, man?
I'm just imagining a starting five with those guys. I'm like, what?
No, like, I need the photo of them holding up the jerseys.
Yeah, that Nets photo of Johan Petro and Jordan Farmar.
This is so funny because I think this is the most mid package you could ever put together because, like, none of these players are trash. Like, they're all decent players, but it's like five mid players. Like, how are you supposed to get excited for any of them?
This is like when you like pull up to your convenience store and you buy a bunch of stuff, and then you're like, all right, let me dump out all my quarters and dimes.
Yeah.
Like,
So
like, they offered the dishes and dimes package from this one. Like, it's tough. Like, I feel like
Oh my
Gafford,
God.
obviously somebody who
no,
you know,
please, no, don't. I didn't need you to break this.
I'll
down.
break this one down. Yeah,
No,
I mean
this is
Miami's
not
not
happening.
Miami's not taking this deal. I'm
No,
sorry.
this is not. So
Yeah, that's
that's
not
not a
great.
trade partner.
But also
the-
Dallas with Jimmy would be kind of sick though. Man.
Yeah.
on.
The Rockets do have the easiest path to a trade because they can take
Rockets.
on salary. They can
Okay.
offer a package of their young players. I
Yeah.
don't know which of them might
Rockets
interest.
could really use Jimmy though. Like
Yeah.
you watched the game yesterday, for example. It's like
for sure.
this team in a half court setting just struggles. Like obviously you got Şengün, you could do a little bit. I mean, they were even lucky to get past Golden State. I mean, Golden State went super cold down the stretch, and then also that controversial call, which I totally agree with Steve Kerr. You can't let the game be decided on a loose ball foul in that moment, man. Like just call jump ball, call timeout, do anything else other than call foul, which like it wasn't really even that much of a foul. Because like when you're scrambling for a ball on the ground, like anything goes, right? In that scuffle. But regardless, like, you know, Fred, like we know Fred can't create that much in a half court setting. We know that. He can like be responsible for you. He can be your lead, he can be your like point guard, but he shouldn't really shoot more than like 15 shots. And he should mostly be catching and shooting from three. And right now he's been struggling with that too. So yeah, honestly, I would, if for the sake of the NBA, I'd actually love to see the Jimmy on the Rockets more than anything else. Because he would also fit Ime's like, you know, personality, you know, like that defense grittiness. But then again, I would say like even with Jimmy, I feel like Houston's offensive ceiling is not high enough to push like OKC or even Denver, for example.
Looking at all these teams, I mean, the Warriors too were mentioned. I mean,
No, give me the Warriors package, man.
It seems like they've moved in a different direction. I mean,
That's not gonna be Wiggins and
it would be Andrew. It would be Wiggins, Gary Payton the second,
oh
Jonathan
my God.
Kuminga, and then potentially two
Okay.
first-round picks.
Oh,
but
okay.
the thing is,
that's not bad.
if I'm on Miami's side, like, and if you don't think you're gonna bring back Jimmy,
Mhm.
I guess you would take one of these packages unless you're taking on like huge salary back, which
Yeah,
like you're not taking on any. I mean, none of these are just appealing. Like even if you take back Kuminga, then you got to deal with extending him.
exactly. That's
Like,
yeah.
There's just I don't think there's a trade partner out there that makes sense. I think most likely Jimmy just ends the season in Miami and then goes
He
somewhere
walks.
else in the offseason. And I do
But
think it
shouldn't
might be
you get
time for
something
Miami to
for him?
move on.
Shouldn't you get something for him though? And also, what's Miami moving on to? Like Bam and Tyler Hero?
But there's just, I mean, if you
Jovic?
lock Jimmy up to a long-term extension, big money,
Oh, I hear you. I hear
it's
you.
like where are they going? Like, and they've had a really successful run together, man.
No, they have. Like Jimmy, honestly, some of Jimmy's playoff highs are as high as LeBron's playoff highs for Miami, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But like that's how good Jimmy has been for them in like 2 or 3 of their runs. But
I mean, he hasn't delivered a championship, but he's delivered more finals appearances than LeBron has in LA. Like he's
Sure.
taken them there
Okay.
twice. But
yeah, no,
I
that's
think they
fair.
had a really, really good run, but it just feels like it's over, like from the outside looking in. Like there's nowhere to go for this team.
I think it's also tough because like the when a player is 30, how old is Jimmy? 34, 35?
He's 35, yeah. So he'll be
Yeah, so
36 next September.
Right, which is like obviously Jimmy's in great shape. He's a top professional, all that kind of stuff. But he already does miss like usually about 20-25% of the season anyway. Yeah, like once you sign a player to that kind of contract, you're like those deals are immediately immovable. So you must have like other pieces around him to be able to sort of continue to provide upside as he sort of declines a little bit. That's why I think Houston's a good spot for him because like I don't think Houston's getting a top free agent otherwise. And also like they have so many young guys already locked in and they're cost controlled and they have potential to improve. So
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe this might be one of those things where like some kind of sign and trade happens in the offseason. I don't know. I just don't see Jimmy
Sure.
moving during the season.
sure.
That's my prediction.
Sign and trade, you know. I mean, I feel like Fred's contract is a good option for that. For example, he's got a huge team option that's like $40 million. So it's like you could throw into things. You pick up that option, you sign him somewhere, trade him somewhere else, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, just want to say a quick congrats to our boy CP3 Chris Paul,
Oh,
who
what
passed
do you mean, our boy?
Jason Kidd recently and now trails only John Stockton. He's second all time.
Yeah.
Second in all-time assists. Wanted to give you a quick quiz. So
Okay.
I have the 10 players who he's assisted to the most in his career.
Oh,
CP.
CP3 quiz.
Let's see if you
Hell
can
yeah.
let's see if you can get 5 of these.
This is why you're my producer, bro.
So
The players he's assisted the most.
So I have 10 names. If you can get 5, I think that's pretty impressive.
Blake Griffin.
Yeah, Blake Griffin is number 1 with 13. He's been assisted 1,322 times.
That's incredible. Lob City. David West.
Wow, you're getting these in order, man. This is like the
Yo,
Family Feud board.
What do you mean?
David West, 1,178 assists.
That's incredible. Okay, so I'm basically thinking about like who was on like the Hornets with him, and then also who was on the Clippers with him. DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan is number 4. Yeah, 630. Yes, JJ Redick is number 3. 606. Yo, how much CP3 do you know?
What have you? I've watched this whole career.
All right, now there's you can still get the rest of these. These are not like obscure.
Who else was on that New Orleans team that he played with for a long time?
Yeah, there's 3 more players. There's 3 more players from that New Orleans era.
Okay, so like Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler is number 10. Yep.
Peja?
Who'd you say after that?
Peja
Stojakovic is number 6. Yep.
Wow, number 6.
Yeah,
and then with Peja?
And then there's one more, a bit more obscure. Big man could shoot threes.
Big man shooting threes for the
not a big,
Hornets?
like a wing.
A big wing shooting threes.
Yeah.
Man, who was the 3D guys over there, man?
So this would be Rasul Butler.
Oh, Rasul Butler? Yo, that's crazy.
Rasul Butler.
I was going to guess Rasul
Butler comes in 9th.
Yeah, because he was in that trade with was he in that trade that brought him over to the Raptors too? Because he was briefly a Raptor too.
Because Rasul did have a little run.
Him and David Anderson come into the Raptors and Peja Stojakovic, obviously. Punjabi.
So the other 3 are actually Phoenix Suns, Bridges,
Phoenix Suns players.
Booker, and Ayton.
Booker and Ayton,
yeah. Yeah, shout out to CP, man.
By the way, have you ever looked up John Stockton's basketball reference page?
No, why?
So I mean, obviously we all know John Stockton is like all-time player in the Hall of Fame, all that kind of stuff. Very problematic nowadays, but it is what it is. So there was a 9-year period where he led the league in assists. Like 9 years straight, in a row. This guy led the league in assists for a decade.
But he was, I mean, I know he was putting up assists. He got the longevity, but was he? He wasn't averaging more than 10, 11 assists.
No, during the stretch.
Am I sliding him?
In this era, when he first off he averaged 10.5 assists for his entire career, and he played 19 years, right? In this 9-year span where he led the league every single year in assists, he averaged 13.1 assists in that stretch.
Okay.
The thing is honestly, Stockton's assist record is actually one of the truly unbreakable records in the entire history of the NBA. Because
he got that longevity too, right?
Because you have the list, right? Like Chris Paul's now moved to number 2. What's Stockton's number and what's Chris Paul's number?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure CP's 5,000 away or something like that.
That's ridiculous, man. And the thing is, not only did he have so many assists, but John Stockton, out of the 19 seasons that he played, 16 of them he played 82 games.
Yeah, Mr.
How is that possible, bro? How is that actually possible that he played 16 82-game seasons?
Because he studied his own medication, No wonder he has such strong beliefs.
He's like, I know how to take care of myself. I played 16 82-game seasons.
Yeah,
man.
So I looked it up.
Someone's CP's
CP's over 3,000 assists away from catching John Stockton.
And to put that in perspective, that's Chris Paul would need to play 3 more peak years at minimum to get there. Yeah. And we know he doesn't have that in him no more.
Quick one answer question. One paragraph answer for you. Which player from this generation do you think should be remembered more for not winning a title? CP or James Harden?
Oh my God.
Which player are you like, oh man, he really should have gotten one?
Which Houston Rocket from that era of ISO ball?
I guess it is together. Because CP pulled his hammy and then they lost to the
No, but
Warriors.
They literally were the closest ones to have they're basically Elron and Isildur.
They're really the no-ring brothers.
Yo, Gollum got more rings than both these guys, man. Samwise Gamgee had the ring longer than Chris Paul and James Harden.
Every generation's got guys that you remember for not winning a ring because they're so good. And I feel like these are the 2 prime candidates.
You don't want to throw Westbrook in there? Because the 3 of them basically were in the league all at the same time. I mean, CP was in there a little longer,
but I think when you think all time, CP and Harden are going to end up higher.
Higher level? Okay. I mean, interesting with CP because like he doesn't have an MVP like the other guys do.
Yeah, but
You
come
know?
on, man. Like that's the
Okay,
point guard, man.
That's the point. That's the point guard. When did we start calling him the point guard? I mean, he's amazing, but like this guy used to, it was like him or Darren Williams, man.
No, but come on, man. You CP right behind John Stockton. Like CP's an all-time point guard.
No, he's an all-time point guard. There's no doubt, man. But would you rather have CP on your team or Steve Nash on your team?
See, that's a tough one for me.
Okay.
I might go with CP.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
fair enough. I mean, Steve
with
does have
CP.
2 MVPs, but I
Yeah.
do hear you in the sense that like there's maybe a little more two-way. The thing was like Chris Paul was always like too domineering to not be the number one on his teams, but he's not a good enough number one to be a championship number one.
Yeah, but I think later in his career he did try, like working alongside Harden, like even going to Phoenix next to like Booker.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he was up 2-0 in the finals, man.
He also was up 2-0 in the finals.
Yo, I'm telling you, that's Isildur in Mount Doom holding the ring. He's like, nah. I'm
All right,
keeping it.
so I feel like it's gonna be a tie between CP and Uno.
Honestly, I feel like with James Harden, he brought about
Call him Uno, please. Yeah.
Uno. I feel like Uno brought about a change to the game. Like he's a game changer. Like I'm not trying to like, but like the step
he
back
changed the
threes.
game by telling his teammates to just stand in the corner for 48 minutes. The most unfun player to play with.
I feel like you know how you got to pay our agent a certain percentage. You know what I mean? Like I feel like PJ Tucker should have to pay a certain percentage of his future career earnings.
Uno gave birth to so many Chandler Parsons during that era. Like Ryan Anderson. There's so many of them.
I actually really loved all those Houston Rockets teams because like they used to have the most random guys. It was like Uno playing pick and roll with Nene.
Oh yeah. Late stage capitalism, Nene.
Yo, Uno pick and pop with Ryan Anderson. You know what I mean?
My
like
God.
Uno with Trevor Ariza. Like,
oh my God.
Like Uno and Jeremy Lin for that brief period. Like,
who was that guy? I was listening to old Bill Simmons pods recently.
What's wrong with you, man?
Monty Eunice.
Oh yeah, Domas Monty Eunice.
Yeah, Domas Monty Eunice
he was
the
honestly
guy.
Like he was lefty. He was crafty, man. I mean, he was like really couldn't go up and down the floor. Then him, because it was like Monty Eunice and then also Dwight Howard. Also, I think Monty Eunice is remembered because he was the guy who slipped on the floor and like left a wet spot, and that's when Steph like sprained his knee.
Oh my God, is that what happened?
Yeah, and then Warriors fans were like still blaming that bad knee for when they lost in 2016 in Game 7 to Cleveland. It was like, well, he wasn't healthy because he slipped on Monty Eunice's sweat, but like that's a crazy legacy to leave behind, man.
No, shouts to the Harden Rockets, man. That was
had
Daryl
so
Morey in
many
his
guys,
prime, man. He was cooking with that team building.
No, it was crazy. Like that's what I'm saying. Like James Harden, like remember when he came to Toronto? This was 2020 or 2020, that season. And Nick Nurse was like peak, like, oh, I can do whatever I want with this roster. You know what I mean? Like, Nick Nurse's peak was crazy. I mean, the championship was crazy, but the year afterwards, he literally could do no wrong. He won Coach of the Year, obviously, too. But like, when James Harden came to Toronto, bro, teams were guarding him from behind. Just to avoid the step back. They're like, you can't step back. It'll be the first travel or be the first charge ever going towards his own basket rather than the opposing basket. They were standing to the side of him or behind him. And then Nick Nurse was like, okay, that's one strategy, but I'll take it to another level. Anytime he crossed half court, they would hard trap him. Like literally, he could be at half court. We saw the Clipper game in person because like the camera will show you the action near the basket. But like if you watch just the whole court, James Harden, if he's not involved in the play, will just stand at half court and do nothing. He's good at conserving
James
energy.
Harden has anti like cardio games.
Yo, legit,
like he'll put up a triple double, but if you check his steps, like it's actually incredible. Like he's a work of art, man. Like he's a true artist.
He's a true efficiency god. No wonder like Daryl Morey loved him because he does the least amount of work to give you the most amount of output.
Well, apparently too, there was a report that he's been like he stopped partying now. Like there was a report. I think he told ESPN. He told ESPN that he finally realized the value of sleep. So he's been like going to sleep early. And like not going out and partying. All I'm saying is, Kawhi might be a couple weeks away. Like, I think I'm about to make my annual pitch for the Clippers to win it all again. Oh my God,
bro! If you fall for the January Clippers once again, man,
I really do fall for the Clippers every year, man.
No, but I probably go with James Harden because like I've never seen Chris Paul trapped at half court just for bringing the ball up.
Yeah, I'll go with Uno as well.
Before we get back to the show, we just want to let you know that this podcast is proudly brought to you by Tangerine. Tangerine is the official bank of Hello and Welcome, the Toronto Raptors, WNBA, and the NBA.
Yeah, man. And fans are at the core of everything that Tangerine does. And they're not just fans of basketball. They're fans of fans, right? And Will, I know you know what it's like to be a fan. You're a fan who's got a nickname for every starter. You're a fan who's 5 inches from the screen when the game is on. You're a fan who'll show up to Jurassic Park in a blizzard to cheer on your team.
They calling me Fan Ho Park.
No, that's what Tangerine is all about. Fans of fans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're hearing this, there's no doubting your commitment. And fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game special. That's why for the Raptors' 30th anniversary, Tangerine is shining a light on you, the fans, and celebrating the passion that you bring to the stands, because this is how we fan. To learn more about Tangerine's basketball partnerships, head to tangerine.ca/basketball. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, NBA Cup this Tuesday, Bucks, Thunder. By the way, just want to let you know that right now the Thunder are 4.50 odd to win the NBA championship this season, not the NBA Cup. The 4.50 to win it all. I mean, if you were to think about it at this point of the season right now, I know Boston's the defending champion, but man, OKC Thunder, man, Thunder are looking good.
Thunder are looking incredible, man. I feel like you bring in Hardenstein, who has been this connective piece. He's setting these huge screens. He's short rolling. He's got that like incredible push shot. Him and Jakob Poeltl going push for push. Like it's, that team is really, really well constructed. Shea's, for me, I mean, I know Jokic's numbers are like untouchable, but come on, man. You look at the team success and like the fact that Shea's numbers are also incredible. Like you got to give it to Shea at this point. Like that team is just rolling. They got an identity. They got a swagger. You know, Darko was talking about how we got to bring our swag on the road. Man, OKC brought their swag to Vegas. You know what I mean? And so I think I could see them going all season sort of with this run. They're young. They're deep. They don't even play their guys that many minutes because they don't need to most nights. I could see them, for example, it'd be interesting to see who gets home court between those two teams. And yeah, I mean, I still would take Boston over them because I still need to see, like, I think Boston, they gamed the system a little bit better, obviously shooting to such a high volume of threes and having that sort of volume of like, 3-point makes that comes along with that. But also at the same time, OKC does a great job of forcing turnovers. A lot of Boston, they require driving and kicking. And OKC's so good at guarding driving kicks that because they deflect the ball, they tip the ball, they swarm the ball. It would be a really good contest this year. But I mean, I probably would still go with Boston ultimately. But OKC's right there, man.
Yeah,
they're so impressive.
If you like OKC, they're 4.50 odd right now. Make sure you hit the QR code below and check out Betway for all your basketball betting needs. Before we wrap up, just want to let people know too that I'm actually teaching a 4-week course at Hart House at the University of Toronto, starting on January
Dr. Wong
15th. It's titled New Media Spaces: How to Use the Podcast Platform for Basketball and Hip Hop Conversations, because U of T has this really cool hip hop curriculum that they run throughout the year. So over the 4 weeks, gonna have in-person guests join me. We're gonna talk about different topics about the intersection of basketball and hip hop and its history, and also try to lend some tips to the students about just like research and preparing for interviews, how to conduct like engaging interviews, like approaching critical topics, having meaningful conversations in a podcast setting, how to find your own voice in this space. So if you guys want to sign up, it's the link is harthouse.ca/events/new-media-spaces, or you can just find the link by going to my IG at Stephen LeBron. It's in the bio. So there's still some spots available for U of T students. We've also opened up spaces for just like community spaces for non-students who want to get into that. Most of that is already filled out. They've opened up a few more spots. I think there's a wait list there as well. So,
you got motion like that?
Yeah, make sure you check that out. Look forward to seeing you there. I know there was a viral U of T professor went viral a few years ago because he asked every student to follow him on social media in exchange for a better grade.
That might have been a social experiment.
So I'm hoping to follow in his lead. But
really?
Yeah, no, super excited to do this. So did promise the U of T people to kind of help them promote as well. Because like if you know any U of T students, or if you are a U of T student and want to check this out, make sure you go and sign up. So
no, I mean, first off, this is big ups to you. Like, this is something that I know you're gonna just absolutely kill it because you don't really flex your resume that much, but like Alex Wong is like over a decade in this game, man. Like he's written for the biggest outlets. Was a problem. Yo, we talking about NBA ratings were down 48%, man.
Yo, we should start doing highlight clips.
Alex Wong's ratings are up 48% in the last
decade. Like, we just show our media clips. Like how they post highlight reels.
You know what I mean? Like, speaking of Chandler Parsons, man, you might have read about Chandler Parsons launching his new underwear in GQ,
if you guys have nothing to do,
magazine, man.
Yeah, please Google Alex Wong, GQ, Chandler Parsons.
You watched the original Spider-Man? You know about Mary Jane Kirsten Dunst? Like, that's Alex Wong's profile over at GQ. This man wrote at the New Yorker, profile Raptor fans for the New Yorker, bro. This guy writes at the New York Times. He probably still writes about the New York Times. Just if you search any Jeremy Lin video or any Jeremy Lin interview, it's in the New York Times.
It's the Athletic now, you know.
Oh well, you know. I mean, I guess you never had to write for the Athletic, but like,
shouts
you know
to
what
Sam
I mean.
Amick.
This guy, bro. How many video projects you launched, man? I mean, everyone knows about Raptors Over Everything. Everyone knows about the Raptor Show. They know about Hello and Welcome, #1 podcast in Canada for basketball in all three of those spaces. But did you know about How Hungry Are You?
I think people know, man.
You know how many people? Search, bringing on Kawhi Leonard. You know what kind of questions he got, bro? Alex wrote those. You know what I mean? Not saying that Serge didn't put his own spin on it. Whatever. Obviously, he had to deliver, but
yeah,
man
please.
produced
We're trying
that.
to get Serge on the show, man.
We talking about #1 bestsellers in stores now. Prehistoric, well, maybe last year was probably #1 seller at this point, but I've seen the Amazon charts. You know what I mean? This man on Amazon more than Jeff
grab
Bezos.
Prehistoric for the holidays, man.
Grab Prehistoric for the holidays, because you know what? That book almost killed Alex, man. That's how hard he was working. This guy was working 2 jobs.
The royalties aren't even hidden like that. I just want you guys to read it.
No, but it's, you know what? That's real love right there, because you wrote that out of true love of your heart. Like, that was love of the game. You love the Raptors so much, and you actually put in an ungodly amount of hours. Like, we literally had to send this man to therapy because of how much time he put into doing Prehistoric.
Yeah,
like,
now
100 interviews, man.
Now therapist went on mat leave, man.
Well, if you got a new therapist, call Alex. They got to be Asian and very understanding. But
yeah, please DM me any leads.
I'm just saying, bro. Like, no, your resume is like, come on, man. Nah, no one's gonna be asking CP or Alex Wong at the end of the career, man, because that's not gonna be a debate. It's not gonna be CP versus Uno, man.
No, appreciate you, bro. And also,
yeah, congrats on this. Congrats on teaching this course, man.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to do it. Actually, got to sit down. Have a lot of exciting guest speakers joining. Might be reaching out to you and Jerome as well.
Me reaching out, man. You can just hit us up anytime.
Shireen Ahmed, a few other people.
Yeah,
gonna be joining the course too. So
that's right. And you put on for your community. That's the other thing I didn't even say, man. You know how many careers this man helped launch? This man be taking give me career advice, bro. When I was trying to leave the industry, this guy was like, "Don't do that."
Wait, were you trying to leave at one point?
Yeah, man.
What were you gonna do? Like open a bakery or something? What were you gonna do?
I think I was gonna work PR, man. I was trying to be
seriously?
Like,
no way, man. Oh my god, if you were PR, yo, that would be so funny, man.
My point is, like, this guy giving a lot of career advice. This guy also puts on for the community. You know what I mean? And he puts on, like, I'm not even trying to say like underserved voices, because like these people are big in their own right too. But like, yeah, you're behind the scenes, like pulling the strings, putting people on, putting projects together, man. So yeah, just for, like, because I think a couple questions ago they were like, yo, man, how come Alex was on Open Gym and you weren't? I'm like, because he deserves it, bro. What do you mean?
Because Will didn't start watching the Raptors till 2004.
Yeah, what do you want me to talk about, man? Oliver Miller was a problem, like. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
That's
congrats,
it, man.
Go to Alex's course.
We got some exciting episodes this week. Savannah and Kirtika will be joining Will, and then our Championship React Pod series continues with. Can you do the intro? The intro for our guests?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of UNC, the money man from 3-point land. Wear number 14. It's Danny Money Green.
Was that echo made by Strizzy, or was that just
I transcribed Strizzy. Yeah, not
okay. Yeah, we got Danny Green. We got Danny Green joining us. It was a super fun conversation.
Super fun, man.
It was the conversation was around the Sixers series, specifically their Game 4 win. But honestly, we ended up talking about everything. Like
everything, bro. Him getting traded, the whole Kawhi situation, Kyle being like, just upset behind the scenes. The young team coming up, the dynamics, the game plan against Embiid. Nick Nurse and all the adjustments. I know it's like talking about 2019 is something we could do anytime, but I will do that. I think at that time there was like a meme that went around that your friend Young had put out. It was like, oh, my dad's gonna be watching the Kawhi shot forever. And I'm like, yeah, I will be talking about the Raptors and that specific team forever. But it was a great chance to catch up with Danny. He gave us a lot of his time too. And damn it, Dan, Danny's really great at getting media trained. He's not just media trained. He's just a great speaker in general. Really confident, and I would love to see him on more, broadcasts in the future.
Yeah, maybe on our show too. Yeah, that's coming this week. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. This was Hello and Welcome, presented by Betway. We'll talk to you guys soon.